This episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Thank you so much, Dragon Shield, for supporting the show. Make sure to check out our affiliate link below to purchase Dragon Shield products.
Welcome to the Play to Win podcast, where we talk about winning in cEDH. I'm Cam.
I'm Dylan.
I'm Tyler.
And this week, we're going to be talking all about the monocolor decks in cEDH, and we're going to try to figure out which one is the best.
One color decks.
One color decks, yes.
Not no color decks.
Not no color decks.
Correct.
Not two color decks.
Not two color
Three
decks.
is right out.
Definitely wrong.
Four color decks?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And not even five.
I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's nuts.
Right.
Let's dig into it.
Okay.
Is there any benefit to playing a one color deck?
What do you think?
My favorite benefit is that I think you get to run a lot more utility lands than you could in most non-one color decks.
That's very true.
I think that is a lot of fun. It also means that you don't get punished by, Back to Basics and Blood Moon, but those are decreasingly prevalent in my opinion. So I think the hurt from those is a lot less than it used to.
Honestly, my first thought is I get to play Blood Moon or I get to play Back to Basics
go.
from
Yeah.
Red or Blue. That's like my first
That's
thought.
also
But
true.
I think the utility lands, feeling more comfortable playing things like Emergent Zone is like really helpful and powerful.
Yeah.
I think that although cEDH doesn't have a ton of utility lands, if you're monocolor, you definitely get to play a couple.
I think the best monocolor is probably blue.
I don't know, dude. It's hard to start. It's hard to begin everything.
It's hard to just begin
with
with what's the
blue's
best.
the best color for sure, but I don't
Yeah.
think we'd have to go color by color because there are some monocolor commanders that aren't blue that are way more powerful than any of the mono blue
Yeah, I
ones.
was gonna
Alright,
say,
well-
I think the blue decks are worse than black and red for sure in monocolor.
But they have maybe a stronger individual card quality, maybe.
Yeah.
Like in a Dranith world, maybe the mono blue deck is better.
Okay, well, I guess let's start this over and let's get into this color by color then.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, so let's start off with white.
Right.
Because Wooburg.
Heliod's the first one that comes to my mind.
Absolutely the first one that comes to my mind, too.
An ow.
Yeah.
An
ow, you said?
Ow.
Oh, ow. Okay,
Ow.
like
Yeah.
Commander. I think like, and ow. Like, that deck hurts me. Heliod, so painful.
Ayo.
No, yeah, Heliod and Ow are definitely the first ones. Heliod, comboing with Walking Ballista, one-card combos with your commanders are great. Heliod can play a lot of mono-white stacks pieces. Unfortunately, my thing with Heliod is always that you lose to artifact hate and creature activation ability hate, which is like things that mono-white wants to be doing. So your Stony Silences and your Linvalas, those don't really work in your decks, and normally those are powerful cards that white has access to.
Yeah, they kind of fight against what you're really trying to do. But you still do have a lot of access to a lot of really good like stacks pieces. You get like Dranith Magistrate and stuff like that too, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of the new white creatures, Esper Sentinel, Archivist of Agma, Ranger Captain Vios, Dranith Magistrate, like you said, like those are like now like real pulls to white and like being in mono white to be able to like easily play those cards.
Yeah, the card quality of mono white has gone up a lot in the last 3 years.
Yeah, for sure. I would say for a while, white was by far the worst. I don't think that's true anymore. I think like white and green are probably close. And in most cEDH situations, I prefer white to green, I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely do too. I really like the protection that white gives you, and you really do get to utilize it in a lot of these mono white decks too.
Silence is better than Veil of Summer.
Oh, hands down, hands down.
Which is weird because I would normally, in most other formats, Veil of Summer is like way better, right? It draws a card, does everything you want more, but Silence in the 4-player, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, but Giant Growth is better than whatever that fucking spell is that gains you 3 life. That's for sure.
That's true.
That might be true. I'm not sure about that.
Neither of them really see play. The other mono white decks that are out there that could be.
I'm just going to lower you a little bit.
Okay.
You look small, like a hobbit kind of.
Well,
Great. Keep going.
some of the other mono white decks that are out there are like Oswald, the
Fiddlebender.
artifact birthing pod. Yeah.
That card's good.
It's a very interesting deck.
You know, I just recently I'm putting together Timna Jeska, the one that won the most recent Mox
Masters.
Mox Masters, or
Yes.
it didn't win, but it did win actually.
It did win.
It did win. Yeah, it did win.
Yeah.
I'm putting that list together, and it is playing the card that you just mentioned, which I already forgot.
Oswald Fiddlebender.
That's the one, Oswald
Yeah.
Fiddlebender. Plays Bolas' Citadel. I'm excited. I don't know if there's actually any 5-drop artifacts, but either way, there's a lot of artifacts
What do
in that
you
deck.
what do you get into Bolas' Citadel then?
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if there's an artifact. I think you get the Cloudstone Curio. You sacrifice a 2-mana artifact into Cloudstone Curio or something like that.
Oh, so you're going for that line.
Yeah, there's a couple other
specifically.
things. Yes.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. As a commander itself, it is pretty powerful. Like you can certainly go find the specific stacks piece that you need, but there's also a lot of lines you can use to keep untapping Oswald and just keep going up your chain too.
To be honest, I'm not familiar with those lines.
Yeah.
You can't win off an activation. How can you win off?
I don't know if you can win off of a singular activation. Like a lot of times you're trying to go up your chain. So like your only 5 mana one is like Norn's Annex, because there's really no good 5-mana ones.
Okay.
But then you're really trying to get like a God Pharaoh statue in play, which can just shut down like all of the interaction and just start a clock on your opponents. It's the worst clock, but it's a clock.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Outside of that, are there really any mono white decks?
Teshar is the other one. It's not on the database anymore, but Teshar is one that, still has potential to be completely busted. And if you don't have an answer for Teshar or the graveyard, it can completely take over the game.
Yeah.
I know from what I've heard, there was a little while where Teshar was apparently doing like really well in some early cEDH tournaments.
This is something that we'll find with all of the monocolor decks is that a lot of people don't know them very well.
Right.
So you can surprise people, especially in a tournament setting where they're so trained and tuned to play against 15 Winota decks and 15 Tivit decks and 15 Thrasios Brews decks, and they're not considering these monocolor decks that we're going to talk about that are just going to completely steal tournaments from under everyone's feet.
That's another benefit to playing monocolor decks is more often than not, they are like a combo piece or some type of like value engine that your opponents may not fully understand. And kind of like what you just said, like having information that your opponents don't is like a great way to win games of Magic. If they don't know how you win, you have I think a much better chance of winning the game.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to stop you from winning if they don't know what is the tipping point.
Exactly. Yeah. And the meta game is so like solidified in cEDH. People, I think, focus on that really hard. And Commander's just, it's fucking enormous. Like there's so many things you can do.
Well, I also think people will undervalue your deck because it's got one color, especially like in mono white. People are going to go, oh, there's no counter spells. I'm just going to not worry about what you're doing. And if you're not on the board, you're not doing anything.
Right.
And then you completely get them with like a Revelant Silence. Or
sure.
Not that one because that's a Boros card, but like
some powerful white card. Name a powerful white card. Go.
Soul Partition. Fuck, it's not good enough.
There are some options. Mono white's good. Yeah. I don't know if I'd be comfortable enough in taking mono white to a tournament any day soon, but that's not the type of player I am. I think you could certainly take down some tournaments though.
I think so too. In the hands of the right player.
Do we have so good?
No, what are you gonna say?
Sorry.
I want to know what you were gonna say.
I was just gonna say, do you have a favorite? Do you have a top mono white deck that you think is the best of these?
I think Heliod is definitely the best of them.
Yeah, I would probably say
Heliod Ballista, right? Not the other Heliod.
Ballista. No, not the other Heliod. I don't think anyone besides Charles the Mono White guy is going to be able to make that one work.
Yeah, I would also say Heliod, although it has some anti-synergies. We've talked about this word before. There's another word for it that's something else.
No, that's literally the word.
Are you thinking like Nombos?
Nombos is normally the word that we go with. Yeah, there are some Nombos, but nonetheless.
They're synonymous.
If you either... I mean, they are, but Nombos is the word that people use.
Okay.
Either way, if you've seen this time for real, our most recent gameplay video on one color decks, you'll see how powerful Heliod can be.
Yes, definitely. And situations that come up all of the time.
Yeah.
All right. Mono blue is the next mono color.
Okay.
This one I think is the most deep in terms of commanders available. Not if you look at the database, but there's just still a lot of options that people have out there that you'll still see and you'll run into that some of them, might be considered outdated by some people, but there's still powerful things that you can do.
Man, you're saying it's so deep. I'm like, I can only think of 3 that I like actually see.
Oh, I mean, maybe some of them are not like the most super recent that are still winning tournaments or anything like that. But there is a tournament winner that's the OG Teferi Commander.
Yep, I saw that last year.
Yeah, right. I played that deck like 9 games. I went 0-9 with it. I can't figure out how to piece together wins. I'm getting these hands that have like 5 mana artifacts that I can't cast because I'm on a Multi 6 and like I have a lot of other awkward pieces. Like I don't understand it.
Normally, when you think mono blue and cEDH, I feel like you're probably thinking Urza though.
Oh, yeah,
I think that's your go-to thought. Urza is the top one.
Urza helps you out on mana, turns all your rocks into blue. It helps you kind of on card advantage, not the best card advantage, but it's an outlet for infinite mana, which is also super important.
It's the things I love about Kinnan on a mono blue commander.
Yeah.
It makes more mana, and then it gives you something to do with that mana.
Yeah, very similar to Kinnan, honestly.
Yeah,
in some ways, yeah.
I think it fixes a lot of mono blue's problems too, in a way that none of the other mono blue commanders do. Which mana is definitely one of those things. Having an outlet for infinite mana as well, and caring about artifacts specifically is something that a lot of these blue decks are able to do because of their tutor suite being so heavy on artifact-based synergies.
Yeah.
So Urza being able to capitalize off of everything everything that mono blue really wants to do, and what it's lacking is super helpful.
Yeah, having the things that you want to get being things that your color can tutor for is super important. Like we didn't really talk about that too much in white because white really doesn't have a lot of tutors besides Enlightened Tutor, so it can find artifacts and enchantments, but outside of that, it finds everything kind of poorly, some artifacts, but blue has like a decent swath of artifact tutors, so Urza being an artifact deck is super helpful. Also, something that Urza offers that I think is forgotten a lot of the time is like a blocker, like a big beater that can block a Tymna or a Winota or a Najeela. Like, that's like pretty relevant. That shuts down a lot of decks. And the mono blue deck can oftentimes be a punching bag because they're not playing a lot of creatures, so they're not going to have blockers. So the Tymnas and all those things that I just mentioned get the extra value. But having your construct be able to block that stuff is like a real selling point.
Oh yeah.
What other mono blue decks do you think of?
I still think of Orvar, even though I've seen it very little in the last, I want to say 6 months.
Dude, I've seen that deck a ton, I think, at a certain point, but I don't know if I've ever lost to it. I
think
I've
maybe
lost
like
to it once.
Yeah, I think maybe once too. Like it's a very intricate deck that has a lot of very specific lines and can get you a lot of value too. But like a lot of these mono commanders, we're just gonna say, well, if you just snipe off the commander, they can't really do shit.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue with all the one color ones. It's hard to be good enough just on a grind level.
Yeah.
These commanders, most of them are like combo outlets. So if you can stop the commander, you stop like most of the deck.
But Orvar doesn't grind the way that a lot of the other monocolor commanders do, because a lot of the other monocolor blue commanders specifically draw cards in some sort of a way in the command zone, and Orvar doesn't. You have to have two other pieces to be able to do that. Like a target spell and a Rhystic Study is nutty, but I have to have Rhystic Study in play. And
you have to have a specific 2-card combo. Like
fish is much worse when you have 2 fishes. Like you can't keep it around as long.
Yeah, but you still get 2 fishes for a turn cycle. That's so good.
It's great for a turn cycle, but I think more people are going to be less inclined to feed you off 2 fishes than 1.
That's probably true.
Especially if there's no other fishes in play.
At a certain point, the greed would stop, I would say.
Yeah. If you have 3 fishes, then that's a completely different thing.
And we're back on. Fuck it. It's too many cards anyway.
Jeez, I think this is like a story in the Bible all of a sudden. Get it? Because the fish and the multiplying of the fish.
Okay.
Gotcha. We know the Bible super well.
Yeah.
Here on Play to Win.
If there's anything you know about Play to Win, it's that we're
If I
incredibly
remember
Bible
correctly,
focused.
2 things about that story. One, it was dividing fish, and then somehow it also multiplies because Jesus was bad at math. 2, it's bullshit.
Well, that's also
Just
true.
fundamentally also.
That's also true.
2,
No,
it's just fundamentally false.
Stop asking questions and take it at face value. So other mono blue decks that are just mentioned, Jace High Tide. I love this deck.
That's a dead deck.
It's a dead deck.
Sorry, can we say one thing about Orvar before we move on?
I thought you wanted to bring up religion again.
Just because we specifically mentioned that blue and might feel like it has the highest card quality, though I think it's blue or black, it's close.
Yeah.
But Orvar is specifically a deck that does not take advantage of that at all.
That's true.
And
That's a good
runs
point.
a lot
Yeah.
of cards that are not high card quality because they are specific to the Orvar deck. So I think that's really worth noting with Orvar because, you know, if you have a handful of fucking twiddles and whatever other weird buyback spells, like you're not doing anything that game and you're getting that hand.
That's very true. Yeah, Urza gets to play cards that are pretty good even without Urza. You know, artifact tutors can still find artifacts that are good, and your deck is all besides that, it's just counter spells basically.
It's the only Jeweled Lotus deck that wants to see Jeweled Lotus in play after your commander's in play.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's very funny how that works.
Because it turns a Jewel Lotus into a Mox Sapphire, you see. It taps for blue mana due to the Urza. Sorry, just talking to my friends.
What was that? Who are you talking to?
Dude, that'd be such a funny bit. Right? We just like turn to the audience and do the. All right, no,
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What was that?
What other blue commanders are there? Narumeha is the only one else that comes to mind.
Narumeha. I always think of like Azumi. Is that the one that like with the wizards?
It's a
and you
wizard
can tap?
guy. Yeah, it does stuff with wizards for sure.
Did you know you
Wizard's
can
Gal.
tap Azumi the turn that she comes into play?
I sure did know that.
That's bonkers.
Yeah.
I think that's so worth 3 blue and 2 colorless mana.
I don't know about that. Narumeha can win at instant speed. That's the main reason I bring it up. Not a lot of commanders can do that. Narumeha has flash, so her loop can kind of go off at instant speed. That's a good quality.
So there's a lot of decks. Some of them are just better than others, but
Talk higher so the microphone can hear you better.
Talk lower.
I don't know. I'm confused.
I think this is how low can you go for me? It's this low.
I guess we can talk pretty low.
I have no idea how low my voice goes.
But you got to keep the volume with it. You can't lose volume. You got to
You're
keep the
gonna lose
volume.
immediately as soon as you try.
Yeah, that's true. But you got to punch it up. Got to punch up that volume.
Punch
Got to
up the
lower
volume.
down that tone. Not tone.
What are the good mono black commanders?
Sorry. Well, yeah, we're moving on from blue to go to black.
Do we have other blue commanders we
I
want to
don't
talk
got anything
about?
to say.
I brought up at least all the blue commanders I wanted to talk about.
My vote is Urza's the best of those.
Urza's definitely the best
certainly.
of them.
I think
yeah.
it's by a decent margin.
I think
at
so,
least in my
too.
opinion. Although, has Urza won a big tournament? Teferi has. And we all know that's the only thing that matters. So,
Well, Teferi's also going to go on the list of potential best ones because it has won a tournament.
Great.
So that's what we have. So far on our list of best commanders that we're going to choose from.
Give it to me.
Heliod, as in Heliod Ballista, not the OG Heliod.
Right.
Urza, as in Urza,
the mono blue one.
yeah, Lord High Artificer. And then Teferi, the commander Planeswalker one, not the 5-mana Teferi creature that originally came out.
No.
Nope. And then for mono black decks, Crick is like the best one, and I don't
by a
have many
mile.
others that I consider.
Right. You know what? Cedici, mono black Cedici that exploits and tutors. For a while, I was playing against a buddy of mine at a shop, 1v1 commander, when we were trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. And he played that and ad nauseum and played basically all 0 drops in his deck and ad nauseum through his whole deck and got Aether Flux Reservoir out and won that way. That was really good. I haven't seen anything else like that since, though.
It's the original Cody.
Yeah. You just played Kuruk. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think Carrick is the best mono black deck far and away, and it's not even close. I mean, I love some of the other options as cards. I guess Turgid, like
Turgid. Yeah, Turgid's fun in theory. If you can get it going,
Yeah.
if you can break that parity quickly or something.
I think it's a lot better in high power.
Yeah.
Because it is another one of those decks that you do have to play like a lot of just really weird dead cards if you don't have Turgid in play. And it's still like a lot of value, but it's not necessarily the kind of value that you're looking for if you're not stealing things.
Trying to be interactive is just unfortunately like not the best strategy. I feel like
Yeah.
in CDH, like specifically trying to be interactive in that way by forcing your opponents to discard and sacrifice things. If you need to like you're only being interactive to hold. It's like as a tempo reason to like hold off until you can win. More often than not in CDH, it's just too risky and difficult to try to monitor 3 different people, right?
And Turgid and Tiny Bones have the same problem with discard too, which is in part like you're being compelled by your commander to like play around trying to get your opponents to discard stuff in a game style where your opponents want to dump their entire hand turn 1.
Yes.
So like it's
Right, yeah.
it's just not that helpful.
Oftentimes they'll already have no cards, or they're like an Underworld Breach deck or something, and like
It's,
they
like,
don't
great,
mind those
yeah.
cards going to the graveyard. They can use that to their advantage.
Or they have like 6 1-card win cons in their deck, and all they need is to draw 1, and then it doesn't matter that you've made them discard their hand. They
Yeah.
still won the game.
Yes, yeah, that's also a good point. It's funny you bring up Tiny Bones because you have a casual Tiny Bones deck. I have a casual Villas deck that is basically a Kuruk deck, but for casual. I feel like lately, I should just turn it into Kuruk and just play CDH version. Like it's basically a similar deck, except I don't want to give up the Cabal lands, the Swamp lands, and the CDH deck doesn't play those.
Your deck is much slower right now
slower.
because you are trying to like Cabal lands, and you have a big 8-mana commander. You can't cheat out for
Right.
4.
But I feel like Kuruk would give me what I want out of the deck more. Just play CDH,
Probably,
right? Like
yeah.
if
Just play
I'm going for
CDH.
I'm going for Shieldred, Villas, and Kuruk at the same time. So
Those
if
are
I'm-
all the cards that you want to play in
I'm-
Crick anyway,
exactly.
right?
I'm doing that in Kuruk anyway. So yeah.
Remember when one of the black commanders we considered for the monocolor deck games was Yawgmoth, and we
Yes.
played Yawgmoth?
Yeah, Yawgmoth's not terrible. I think actually that probably should have gone before Turgid and Tiny Bones on the list of other like viable mono
Yeah,
black
maybe
commanders.
it certainly does some things.
It's fine. I
Yeah.
mean, it does some interesting things, but
You need parts. You need pieces.
you need a
bad
lot of
cards.
pieces, and they're bad, right?
Yeah.
Like we haven't come back to anything like Undying.
Yeah.
So it's a lot tougher to put these +1/+1 counters on these mono black creatures. I feel like the decks that want to do counters with stuff is like Tayam.
Yes, I think that's probably true. And Time is like a deck that's good. Abs and Time. That deck
that
is
deck's
actually
great.
very powerful.
Like that deck can do things with like Wall of Roots though, but like it has access to all these other
and
colors.
Ranger Captain of Eos, white cards and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So.
Yeah, I would say Kirk, and also another thing like Urza, Kirk gets to play like mainly powerful cards too. Like its best cards, like the worst things that you have to play are like extra tutors and extra reanimation spells, which are like still good. Like, you know what I mean? Like even if you're not doing it, like your Grim Tutor or your whatever other shitty bad black tutor that you play because you're playing Kirk, it's like still a tutor. So like at worst, you're still gonna find exactly what you need at the moment. Like that's not a bad thing to have as a bad card, I think, compared to a 2-mana 2/2 with Undying.
Right. Or
Or
Blood
a
Artist.
4-mana.
Or a Blood Artist.
Or a
yeah.
4-mana 2/2 with Undying.
Yeah, which that deck played at the time.
Yeah, there's
Hopefully
nuts.
got rid of it by now, that card, but either
I
way.
hope there's better pieces. Yeah.
Okay, correct.
So really, that's the only deck I think from Mono Black that I'm considering putting on our top list to be considered for the best monocolor commanders. It's
agree.
just Crick.
On there, it's on the list.
It is on the list. Yeah. So we're gonna move on. That means we're moving on to red.
Red.
So red has a bunch.
First thing, obviously, Godo's the classic.
Godo is an absolute classic.
0-card combo. There's very few of those that exist. The only other one that I know of is like cEDH Agentha, and that one you have to wait for untap, like wait a turn, whereas Godo is I win right now.
Immediately, once you have all the mana.
But I feel like Godo has kind of like, Godo is the same issue with all the other ones, that if you see it coming, you can stop it a mile away, and everyone knows Godo's story. There's other, specifically mono red commanders, that people don't really know how they work, which we're probably going to be talking about today.
Yeah, definitely.
And Godo costs a lot. Like,
yeah, 11 mana.
11 mana to do the thing, but like just having to recast Godo when you're so all in on fast mana to begin with, like makes it a not very resilient deck.
Yeah, your backup plan sucks. Like your backup plan is like hope that you have another Dockside on the top or choose a Ogre. Like
cast a second Godo is a terrible plan.
It's a terrible plan. Yeah.
which bears mentioning because Magda, which is like probably the best red cEDH deck right now, is surprisingly resilient for mono red. It's, you know, a 2-mana commander can get cast 3 times in a game
pretty easily. Yeah,
it's very easy.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that surprising.
That's the one that I was mentioning earlier. Is I feel like Magda is like weirdly like a better mono red deck than Godo right now, which is a strange. I would have never thought that there'd be a mono red deck better than Godo had you asked me a year or two ago or something.
Right. But I've been playing a lot of Magda, and it is surprising the games that you can win,
dude. It's resilient. Yeah, you know the deck. Yeah. Give me the rundown. Tell me why Magda's fucking good.
So this whole podcast is actually because I put Magda back together, and I wanted an excuse to talk about why I put Magda back together, and that's why we're talking about one color commanders. I love Magda. So
give me the 3 top pros.
So the 3 top pros, one of them is that Magda has got a ton of new toys that absolutely change how you play the deck. One of them is Portal to Phyrexia, and I think this is really the best new include for Magda. The ability to completely control creatures on the board all of a sudden and return all of the good ones to your side on your upkeep is nuts. And getting this into play at flash speed means that you basically can like immediately get back someone else's Dockside Extortionist if they've cast that. I've had like Magda repeatedly destroyed with a Dranith Magistrate in play, and you can just, that's fine, I'll put Magda in my graveyard and I'm gonna get it back with Portal to Phyrexia. Like it's such a good resilient piece like that too. It's not legendary. So there's some decks that are running Sculpting Steel too, so that if you still can't win the game and you have 5 other treasures,
pile them on.
I would like a second one, please.
And honestly, like forcing your opponents to sacrifice 3 creatures, more often than not, that's going to be all their creatures. Like you can get to 5 treasures pretty quickly in Magda. It's the whole goal of the deck is to get to treasures very quickly. If you get that very early on, get rid of the mana dorks, get rid of people's early mana like starters, it sets everyone so far back.
Yeah, and it's one of these cards that has been added that can help really push it into the late game better. Because the problem with a lot of the mono red decks is that they're very explosive. They can go very fast, but if you're interacted with once, your whole plan is bummed out, and then you have to spend a lot of resources just to get yourself back up to where you were. But Magda can also get like a bunch of dragons that people forget about all the time. I've won games I shouldn't have with Utvara Hellkite.
Yeah,
if people don't have ways to answer creatures, you just completely win that game over time on stacked out boards. Chisgoria is the newest dragon that's been added. It has affinity for artifacts, so already if you have a couple treasures in play, you can cast this thing for free, even if it's in your, not for free, but for very cheap, even if it's in your hand. And the ability to, with haste, be able to, on attack, get more artifacts from the top of your library you can cast that also have affinity for artifact is just such an awesome way to continue to grind and deal extra damage to the table. Not only that, if you saw a short that we posted pretty recently about this new cEDH staple, Clown Car, you also get to talk about Clown Car, and I'm so mad that you made me read all that text that just did absolutely nothing. Because all it does is just tap mana. Tap for Magda.
Tell us your thoughts on Clown Car. You got any ones?
I have no new thoughts. I have unreasonable disdain for that flavor of card, but that's because I'm like a stodgy, like, you know, and it's only when it's like on a theme that I don't like, because I have to be honest with myself that when they announced the Lord of the Rings set, I should have been like, this also goes against my principles, and instead I was like, yay, wow. Like, but yeah, so I just, you know what, I feel like I don't get to have that opinion anymore. As Mark Rosewater said, I think some products just won't be for you.
Yeah.
And this will be one of the breadcrumbs that leads to all of the products aren't for me, but we're not even close to
we're not there yet.
So,
yeah.
No, that's totally fine. I will pick and choose from that set, and if that that set's going to be good for me, I will take that clown car.
Yeah, until then, Clown Car is like a great include in Magda because it does exactly what Magda wants to do. It is a 0 mana vehicle because who cares about what the X is? It doesn't matter that you're not rolling dice. So you
Stop making me read the text.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. You should put tape on top of it. And honestly, I saw one of our commenters say this. I think it's like actively bad to cast it for anything other than 0.
It is actively bad to cast it for anything other than 0.
They can mental misstep it. It's just like there's more things like you just don't want that. You just want it to be able to crew it, which your commander can do because it's got 2 power, 0 mana. That's all it does. That's great.
You're already playing 2 CMC vehicles in that deck to tap your dwarves a bunch.
And that's all they do, right?
And that's all that they
vehicles,
do.
Basically.
Well, I guess Smuggler's Copter actually does something else, but like some of the other ones are just like they're there and they have incidental value that might come up. But
this deck also suffers from the thing that we were talking about earlier, where it plays a lot of cards that are nothing without Magda, right? Like a lot of 1 mana dwarves that don't do anything besides they're just like mana dorks with Magda out, right? But having a 2-color commander, like you play Kinnan, like they kill your commander. Okay, I'll cast it for 4 mana.
2 mana commander.
What did I say?
You said 2-color. We were very clear in the beginning that we were not
we are not
talking
talking
about 2-color
commanders. You play a 2 mana commander in Kinnan, which is also a mana deck like this Magda deck is. There's kind of some similarities there, but like it's okay if they kill it once. You can normally just cast it again. Eventually they'll run out of mana. Or run out of removal spells?
They definitely will, yeah. And one of my favorite things about Magda, too, is that it can win at instant speed. So you can just have, like, your Artifact Dwarf and 5 treasures and say, pass a turn.
Yep.
And then somebody goes, oh, okay, well, at the end of your turn, I'm going to bounce it with Chain of Vapor. And then I go, great. Removal spell number 1, out of the way. Let's put an activation on the stack and win the game right now.
Yeah, and you can, like, win the game. Like, not set up a situation where you almost win the game. You can actually
I'm finishing it with damage and making sure no one is getting another turn.
And that's the only thing you need, right? 5 treasures, Magda in play, and an Artifact Dwarf.
That's correct.
That's it. And
Magda
you can win
can
from that
be
state.
the Artifact Dwarf. There's 3 different cards in the deck that can turn Magda into an artifact.
Yeah, or anything into an artifact.
Or anything
right?
into
like,
an artifact, yeah. Do
You
you play
liquid metal coating? What else?
the other one, Liquid Metal Twerk. And then there's another one that's 1 mana that you can sacrifice to put a +1/+1 counter on the creature, and it becomes an artifact permanently. Not until end of turn.
Forever.
Permanently. Yes. The only time that they printed an arena-only card in the 90s.
Oh yeah, it kind of is. What is the line offhand? Can you say? Because I know this is kind of going to give away some of your secrets because this is how a lot of Magic players win. Is that no one knows how the deck works.
100%. Yeah, there's like 30,000 people I'm never going to play this deck for anymore. So basically what happens is once you get Clock of Omens in play on your Artifact Dwarf.
Which is your first would you sacrifice the 5 treasures to find right away? Clock of Omens in play.
Boom. Clock of Omens is in play. You can activate with Magda in play, you can activate the clock to tap the clock and your Artifact Dwarf and have the ability target your Artifact Dwarf to untap it. Because it's tapped, Magda creates the treasure. So now you use the treasure you just created and your Artifact Dwarf to tap them with the clock and then untap that dwarf, continuously making a tapped treasure this whole time.
Right, so you don't actually make mana this way. You just make basically infinite tap treasures.
Which can allow you to get infinite searches off of Magda this way.
Yeah.
Which means that you have to go find something like Academy Manufacturer, which will now allow you to continue going through the loop. That's right, you have to keep doing the loop so that this time you make food and clues every time you make treasures, which you can use to untap the treasures you're making to give yourself infinite mana. Now you can go sacrifice for something like a Elixir of Immortality. Because now you have infinite mana, you can still make infinite clues, and you can draw your deck with the infinite clues, and then keep shuffling your graveyard back and your back up with the
Elixir of Immortality.
And then what you use is a channel creature from the new Kamigawa set, which is called
Twin Shot Sniper.
Thank you. And that card will deal 2 damage to anything. So that goes in your graveyard. You can get it back into your deck with the Elixir of Immortality. Keep drawing your deck with the clues and treasures that you're making through the loop. You can't do it on Magic Online, but you can do it really well in person.
By just saying when it's happening.
Exactly.
The coolest thing I like about this combo, you didn't cast any spells in any of the stuff
That's
you just
true.
did. No spells were being cast.
Not even the Clock of Omens was cast.
Right,
At
none of
no
that.
point did I cast a spell.
Counterable spells in Magda, things that you should be looking to counterspell, are things that turn artifacts into dwarfs or artifact dwarves, and Magda itself. Those are the things you can target.
And Magda can find artifact dwarves on her own. So if you have 10 treasures, that can also be a game-winning situation.
If you have 15 treasures, they can respond and activate again on top of interaction that you have. The more treasures that they have, they can just keep on waiting and waiting and waiting until the time is right and respond to everything.
Yes.
Deck is crazy, dude.
I had a situation in Minneapolis where I was the arch enemy for like
this vividly.
6 turns.
Yeah.
I had a portal to Phyrexia because I was getting interacted with. There was an Aven Mind Sensor. Aven Mind Sensor and Opposition Agent are 2 big snipes for this deck, so you play a ton of ways to deal with 2 and 1 power creatures in this deck. But yeah, so one of them was on the stack, and in response, I had to go like get the portal to Phyrexia because I now couldn't win the game. And then I looked at the top 4, and God Pharaoh statue was in there for my next activation, which was nuts. And then over the course of the next bunch of turns, I was the arch enemy, and I still came out of that game on top.
Yeah,
Wow.
this deck getting to play nutty stacks pieces like God Pharaoh statue, and you play like Trinisphere and stuff like that too.
I actually don't play
No
Trinisphere.
Trinisphere.
No,
No
that is a
3-ball.
good one that I'm thinking of, but I might put it in now that you brought it up.
I feel like it's a great include.
You
no?
get to play Blood Moon. You get to play Tangle Wire,
That's a
which
good one.
taps your dwarves for you and
Really
makes
good.
more treasures.
Yeah, Magda's got to be the best Tangle Wire deck for that
Magda is
reason.
hands down the
Right?
best Tangle Wire deck.
I would think
yeah.
so.
Right, like
Yeah.
it makes you mana while you're going through your. Yeah, it's really
It
good.
fixes it breaks parity on
Very,
Tangle Wire
yeah,
really well.
super well.
Yeah.
What else? What else can we even be said about Magda?
We said a lot about Magda.
In fact, we even talked through the win line, which we did for no other deck. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true.
This
best monocolor commander.
yeah, I mean, this podcast is really disguised as how good is Magda in cEDH is really what this is.
I mean, we could go over the Kirk one, but it's like long. Do you remember it offhand? It's a lot of steps.
Yeah, I think so.
Should we go over them real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
The main thing is just there's other lines, but the main line I think involves having Necrotic Ooze, which gets all abilities of things in graveyards while you have Kirik out. There's a bunch of ways to get there, but ultimately you use that and have Asmodeus in your graveyard to like pay. You're paying 6 life to. I'm sorry, you're paying. I think 8 total life to do a draw 7 cards with Asmodeus, which gets you as many cards as you need, and then ultimately you win with Dimir House Guard by being able to sacrifice and recur Gray Merchant with Chainer.
Yes,
I think that's right, correct?
that is effectively right. Not as step by step, but you said all the words that are necessary.
Yeah, I probably said that in the wrong order, but like you said, do you remember this line? I was
On
like,
the spot, go.
I was like, yeah, I remember this line.
Now you have to.
No, I don't.
That's why we haven't been talking about all the lines
Yeah.
and just the Magda line.
We are. So let's talk about. All right. So Heliod.
The Urza's one is easy too.
Yeah.
So is Heliod.
Yeah,
Those are-
Heliod's good. Have Heliod in play. Cast Walking Ballista for have X equals 2. Activate Heliod to give it lifelink. Shoot the table by putting counters on itself because it has lifelink, etc.
Yeah.
What about the mono blue one?
Urza?
Is it polymorph into Hullbreaker Horror? Into cast
That's
Mana
not
Crypt
like
and
a
another
fun
free rock back and
Urza
forth?
line, though. Like those 2 other ones have like a cool specific line that
Does it
you're
still play
going
Ice
for.
Crown
It doesn't have to be
Scepter?
fun. Is that what it plays or not?
I guess that's true.
plays- we're
That's
playing to
not
win.
what
We're not
it is.
playing to
It's
have
an
fun.
outlet. It's not part of the combo. Like
Yeah.
it's an outlet. Is
Yeah,
what
but
it
that's still
is.
part of the combo.
Urza's an outlet, but I think most Urza decks are still like the main game plan is use the one construct it makes and then polymorph that construct to get Hullbreaker or Tidespout and then do the Hullbreaker Tidespout.
Which honestly, I've been hearing. I mean, I don't pay close attention to Urza anymore, but I feel like I've been seeing more decks that aren't polymorphing anymore.
I think
And
that's also true.
I've been seeing more of that stupid jellyfish.
The jellyfish, yeah, it helps you win with
Jellyfish.
Sensei's
Reality
Divining Top.
Architects?
Yeah, these cards
Right.
only. What is
The
it?
Reality Chip.
Reality
That's what
chip.
it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
These combos we've talked about so far with Urza only draw the deck. How does Urza actually finish the game?
No, they play the deck, but
They just play out their whole deck.
remember you
A
shuffle
lot of
and
times-
exile the top card, then you make cast.
that's kind of what I
Well,
mean.
what I
What's the
used to
win?
do
What's the
was
end?
like draw out all my opponents, but what a lot of the other decks do is that you just bounce all of your opponent's things and recast Urza a ton.
There you go.
So you make infinite constructs. Go through everyone's turn where they just go land go, and then you beat them with constructs. Is normally the way that you can play with no dead cards.
Are they still playing Narset? Do you know offhand in Time Twister? Because that was my favorite. It's like once you have all the infinites, Cyclonic Rift, all the things, do the loop to bounce their land.
Yeah.
Also,
No, you have
Narset,
no-
Time Twister, give them nothing at all.
I played Narset when I played the list, I think.
Okay, great. What other? Did we talk about green yet?
No, green hasn't come up. We're not done with red, though.
Oh,
so
Wooburg at the end. Sorry. Okay.
we still have
I think it's so bad you didn't even mention it.
there are some other decks in red. Bergie is in red.
Bergie's a good one.
Bergie is a good one. I think it's certainly worse than Magda.
I think so too.
This is the one that combos with Grinning Ignis.
Yeah, grinning this, but you need something else too. I think this only creates like infinite storm and mana or something.
No, I'm pretty sure Grinning Ignis just does it. Let me go back and reread the Grinning Ignis.
I thought you needed like something like an outlet or something else.
Oh no, you're right, because it costs one red mana to return it, and that's what Berkey makes. So you get infinite ETBs this way.
Yeah, but you need some sort of grape shot, some storm payoff, something like that.
Impact Tremors or something.
Impact Tremors, yeah.
Well, no, because that will sacrifice it, and then you don't have a way to get it back.
Impact Tremors does not sacrifice it.
Whenever a creature enters, deals
I'm
damage.
thinking of
Goblin Bombardment.
You're absolutely right. I'm thinking of Goblin
Two mana
Bombardment.
enchantments
Say it
that are
again. I
similar.
love being right.
You're absolutely right.
Oh, stop.
This time. But remember when I pronounced Will correctly
Remember that
last
time?
year, and I'm still holding on to it?
Fair.
Okay, what else? What other mono red commanders are there?
That's mostly it.
I played Jessica Dargo, but I wouldn't really call that a real deck. Like,
Yeah.
it can be very explosive, but it is also tremendously fragile, and I don't think it's better than any of the other ones we mentioned.
I think that's pretty much it with the mono red.
What about green?
Green. So green actually has a bunch of different options too. I think Solvala is pretty close to the top, if not the top.
Yep, Yisan's up there. Yisan's also pretty good.
Savala go fast, Yisan go slow.
Yeah,
Yisan can go decently fast too. It's another 3-mana commander that has to tap to do its ability, but like in a couple of turn cycles, you can get pretty high up there into locks.
Ashaya is also a mono green deck. That's
I like Ashaya too. I feel like all these green decks are honestly the same deck. They're all like some version of the same deck. It's just which piece do you want in your command zone. There are differences, of course. So Savala and Yisan specifically are kind of on like the ends of this like same deck, but I feel like they're all winning with some similar amount of green creature combo that I don't really understand well enough to talk about.
That's really what it is. Yeah. I like the ones that make infinite mana and play Finale of Devastation.
That's the one. That's good. Yep, I like those ones.
Those are the ones. Yeah. Or the ones that have like the one Umbra Mantle, and I can play
Easy.
like Sovala or Marwyn, and I can just untap it a bunch. And Yisan has too many combos I don't get. Or like Yeva. How about none of the combos are in the command zone, and you just better know what the mono green is.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Yeah.
the peak of what we're talking about, like where it's the benefit to these monocolor decks is you don't know what the hell they do. We don't know what the hell these green decks do.
Right?
half
So
the
when we
time.
play against mono green decks, we just know get rid of the commander and they can't do anything.
Right.
And then you don't need to know what they do.
Right.
100% of the time, I don't need to know what it does because I killed it and now they can't do anything. So
while you're right, I think like having that attitude is how monocolor players get away with it, because
you're
people are
absolutely right.
I don't know what the deck does, so I'll just remove the commander. And then when the moment comes, they're like, "Fuck, I need this removal spell for a deck I'm actually afraid of," and they don't.
Yeah.
Don't remove it. And
Yeah, there are situations. It's hard to know everything in the format. It's hard to know all of these decks and when's the exact time. But I like the I think communicating with your table is important, especially with these decks that you don't know. Hey, does anyone else know how this Magda deck wins? Does anyone else like talking to the table is like the best way to like figure out where everyone else is evaluating their power level at the very least. Maybe you can find out some information by doing this, which is always helpful. But yeah, if you don't know, as I often don't, just like ask your table.
yeah, it's good for in-game knowledge and it's good for outside of the game knowledge. It can help make like your deck building decisions different, maybe. Yeah. So otherwise, again, I'm thinking that Silvala is going to go on the list.
I like Savala, I think, more than Yisan right
And
now.
do you think Yisan is powerful enough to still be? Because I don't want to like just say, well, we're only considering one from every color.
Yeah,
If we're going to create a list of the best ones, if there's a second green one we should put on there,
it's Yisan.
it would be Yisan.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Is that an upper echelon one that can be?
I think we're just putting it on the list so we can immediately, without any further discussion, say it's not Yisan.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we need some
Am I wrong?
stinkers
Yeah.
in order to make the good ones look good.
Yeah.
Much like Draft Chaft is there to make some of the good commons look good too.
Exactly.
There is one mono black one that I just want to re-mention if we can go back, because I've seen it I think twice now. Most recently in Minneapolis, one of our patrons, Chris, was playing it, which is the new Shieldred.
Oh.
I will say
yeah.
it didn't do a ton in the 2 games I played with him. So I'm not sure I've seen it like really do something impressive, but I do think the ability is enough that I'm not, I don't not believe it's a viable deck. I don't think it's anywhere near the power level of Kyrk, but I can see it. I can see it being CEDH.
It's like the Wheels deck that wants to play Wheels so bad and can't.
Yeah. Well,
What a shame.
yeah.
Dark Deal. It has Dark Deal, right?
Oh, that card's so good.
Yeah.
It has Memory Jar and Teferi's Puzzle Box.
Sure, yeah, it's got a couple extra ones. It definitely fits well into the mono black strategy. It's really good in that circle of Villas, Kuruk, Shieldred. I think that's a great circle, a good core. I think Kuruk is probably the better ones that we talked about, but Shieldred's definitely worth exploring a little bit for sure. Does something a little different. Goes a little slow for mono black, which can be good.
So now that we've named like a 6 mono black commander, I'm going to revise what we said earlier and say I think black might be the deepest monocolor.
Maybe.
Not blue.
Maybe.
We didn't talk about all the blue ones. Lear is another monocolor commander
That's
that is
right.
in these colors.
We could talk about all the legendary blue creatures that
everyone
exist if
they
we
ever
want.
existed.
Yeah.
Right? Arkham Daxon is another one that we didn't talk about either.
Sure, that one lost so much when it lost.
It still sees play
what's it
because
called?
that's another Portal to Phyrexia deck.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. Portal
so,
to
like,
Phyrexia, good card.
It's making up. It's like Jeweled Lotus and Thassa's Oracle. It's making a lot of these other decks viable that shouldn't
Yep,
be.
just like those cards.
Yep, 100%.
Nothing different about them.
Yep, definitely don't clip this.
Okay.
All right, so I have a list of the best commanders in monocolor here, and we are gonna figure out which ones are the best.
Okay.
So we have Heliod Ballista as our as the singular white deck here.
Great.
We have Urza and Teferi. I also put Teferi in here.
We got to pick one though, right?
No, because if one of these are better than the
I
green
pick
option,
Urza. Only Urza. I only pick one Urza.
I should take Teferi off this list.
Ask Tyler.
What do you think?
You might as well take Teferi off
All
the
right.
list.
I went 0-9 with that list. We'll take it off.
That's all that matters.
Okay, that sounds good.
It's from our
All right,
perspective.
Well, then I'm gonna just
You
take.
went 0-9 with this list? No. Teferi's the best. Urza's out. Never mind.
All right, then I'm also just gonna take Yisan off then, and I guess we'll just stick with. I guess I'm also taking Godo off of this list too.
I would say we didn't really talk about why, but I would say Savala is more powerful than Yisan because it's more explosive. That's the reason. It can kind of like take over the game singularly. Yisan has to have things go right. You have to be a really good player, which doesn't deter it from being a powerful deck. Savala is still a complicated deck, but I think Savala just has a higher ceiling of brokenness than Yisan does, which is more important in CDH.
And it's so much easier to see Sun coming. Like, even though you will often get to a position where you're able to activate him twice in a turn cycle, there is still like, you know, a die on top of Yisan that is telling your opponents how fucked they are, that is ticking up and saying, hey, deal with me. So like it's a little harder to get away with it.
Oftentimes, Yisan only gives them like one turn. Yisan can untap once and normally present something close to a win, I would say, especially if they have a decent hand. I said Yisan, I meant Silvala. Silvala can untap and present a win really quickly one time. Yisan does not have that option.
Yisan, I think, almost always needs to untap twice or more.
I feel like every time I play against Yisan, the player playing it says something like, I don't even have any 4-drops in this deck, or like, I don't have any, like there's something, I guess, that maybe gets skipped sometime, or I only have one in the deck because it was in my hand, so now that I don't have another option.
Oh, the classic. Don't target me. I don't even run creatures in this deck.
Right,
There's nothing
yeah.
to tutor for.
All right, so our top 5 decks that are going into the Super Bowl of monocolor commanders is Heliod Ballista,
Yep.
Urza,
Yep.
Crick,
Yep.
Magda,
Yep.
and Silvala.
That sounds right.
All right. Which one is the worst out of all of these? Everyone, on the count of 3, say the deck that you're thinking.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Heliod?
Silvala.
Shit, yeah,
I was
probably.
gonna say,
It's,
put it
it probably,
at the
I'm
bottom.
wrong. It's Savala, yeah.
I don't know. Heliod's.
It's close between the two.
I will tell you, I would rather play Silvala than Heliod, even though I think Silvala is
I think
worse.
so too, but I think that's a play style
yeah,
reason
it
too,
is.
which I think would make me pilot Silvala a little bit better. But I think that having the combo piece is a little bit better than the mana.
Yeah.
And Heliod needs less pieces to win, where you do need a lot of things in Silvala to go right.
That's true.
I also think that the indestructibility that Heliod has also can come up quite a bit too, which I think is a little bit more important, as a lot of what we've talked about is, these monocolor commanders, get killed once and then you're fucked.
Right.
That does not happen in Heliod.
I think I would actually rather play Heliod in a tournament than Silvala, only because I have more experience with decks like Winota and Bloodpod, which Heliod is kind of close to.
True.
I don't know green decks. I don't know I don't know that side of green decks. I know the Abrupt Decay side of green decks. I know the mid-range side of green decks. I don't really know the little buddies green creature style of green decks. That's not my forte. But
I know
white stacks, I'm good.
The crop rotation for the cradle is what I know. For the emergent zone, that's what I know. Yeah.
Okay.
So then number 4. All right. I guess we're all on Heliod then for
Heliod's
the
next.
number 4
Yeah.
out of these then. Okay. And then we're between Crick, Magda, and Urza here.
To me, Urza's next. I don't think it's
honestly think
100%.
Urza's
I
next
think
too.
I think Magda And Crick is the only really hard choice here.
I do think Urza has kind of fallen from his grace, where he used to be this like
the next Thrasios.
Right. I would certainly say that he was like tier 1.5 at least at one point. But I think there's a lot of commanders that have gotten more tools recently that have totally eclipsed Urza. And, Urza can't. When you're at the point where like you need to grind, Urza's spinning ability is not where you want to be.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just say like fallen out of favor? You're like fallen from grace. It's so much, so much more melodramatic. Like
because it is. I mean, it's not just extremely dramatic. It was. I mean, it was a complete nosedive.
Kirk and Magda are just more explosive. The things they do are more powerful. They're more broken. They just have more that they can do individually on their own.
Yeah. Honestly, so far we've been going like we've been removing things that can present the least number of wins. It is as both a matter of resilience and the number of available lines. And I think that's what it comes down to.
So then we would say that the number 2 deck then out of this list is
1, 2, 3, Kirk.
Crick. Yeah.
How do we say this card? Is it Kirk or is it Crick?
I'm gonna say Crick.
Is it Crick?
I think it's Crick.
It's Crick. So I've been saying it wrong. I've been saying Kirk, and that's wrong. It's Crick.
Wow, is this what it feels like to be on this side of this?
What is the apostrophe?
Fucking get him, Cameron.
What's the apostrophe doing then? Is it just nothing? Silent apostrophe?
It's like
I thought it meant like a pause. Kirk.
Well, I mean, a lot of times, especially in like fantasy stuff, when they're writing something that wouldn't be writable in English because it has too many consecutive consonants to constitute a normal syllable, they're letting you know that like this is still one like syllable. Like they're putting it sort of in place of a vowel.
Okay, so it's just Crick is what we should call it.
Well, Crick is removing the syllable, right?
So then we're wrong.
I've confused myself.
Do you want to add a syllable or take away a syllable? Do you want me to spin the Jeopardy wheel? Add a syllable.
Have you seen Jeopardy?
Yes, Mr. Jeopardy. I'll add a vowel. Throw an extra vowel in there, Mr. Jeopardy.
Look at this guy.
All the fucking TV you guys watch, and like I understand this one better than you do. Like, come on. Oh
So
my God.
what do we call
Is
it?
that I guess Crick.
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 It's the second best commander.
Second best commander that we're talking about today, with the number 1 being Magda.
Yeah. Crick offers mana advantage, but so does Magda, and Magda also offers
Instant speed wins.
instant speed win conditions as well as silver bullet access.
Yes.
So
oh my God.
it gives you Yisan plus Crick all in one shot.
Exactly. And it also gives you more resiliency than Crick too, I would say.
I will say that I think they're pretty different style decks, and like Crick is just like one of the only decks that is very capable of like turn 1, turn 2 wins pretty consistently. I shouldn't say consistently on turn 1. It is very, very consistently
Super
capable
consistent turn 2.
of presenting a win turn 2. And I don't think Magda is. Like I think it's possible, but it's not like at the same level.
No, a lot of times what you're doing is you're going turn 1 Magda into a little bit more value on turn 2. Maybe turn 3 you can win, but like that's because you have Dockside Extortionist.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think my point is just, if for players that are like looking at the two of these going like, if I'm going to build a monocolor deck, which is it? Like, I think you really are making the choice based on play style, because the power level of these two decks is very, very similar.
I think all 5 of these decks in our monocolor Super Bowl here are very viable, and I think you could totally do well with them. Some more than others.
It's your play style. If you want to go as fast as possible, go Crick. If you want to go as grindy as possible, go... Grindy is a kind of a hard work. If you want to interact on the stack, go Urza. I'll say that. If you want to put out a lot of stacks pieces, go Heliod. If you want to be able to
play Big Dumb Idiots,
play Silvala.
And if you want to do the right thing,
if you want to win, the most games, play Magda.
Yeah, exactly. Which also won a tournament. We didn't talk about that, but it also won a tournament. Shit.
Do you want to end the video now?
Cool. Yeah. We're gonna end the video now, or the audio podcast if you're listening.
Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to support us directly, you can do so on Patreon, like our $100 patrons.
Young Mox, AJ Alwasabi, Baby G-Bus, Kawaja A. Hamid, and Demon of Rosgrees.
If you want to buy any merch from us, go to playtowinmtg.com to pick up all of our items, including our Gay to Win logo for Pride Month.
You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content.
Thank you so much, Dragon Shield, for supporting the show. Make sure you check out the affiliate link down below to show your love to the best sleeve makers in all the lands.
Thanks for watching and listening.
See you next time.
You mean card sleeves or shirt sleeves?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, they only make the sleeves of shirts, though.
$50 patrons, we got Sashes,
Mitchell Shepard,
Justin,
Man Solo,
Nikola Mirakovic,
Steven Schlichty,
Big TP15.
Is my turn now? That green guy.
Isaiah Brzezinski,
Pedro.
See.
Jacob Depp,
Michael Blue,
Jan Wildfang,
Thomas Bueno,
Swampy McGee,
Lauren Connell,
David Nelson,
and Jormags. If you want to buy any merch, including our relatively... Why can I not say this?
It's
What am I
hard
trying
to
to say? Including our
Gay to
new
Win
Gay to
merch.
Win logo.
Yeah, Gay to Win logo. Which,
Okay.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
Pride Month Gay to Win logo. Sure.
There you go.
boom.
If you want to pick up any merch, oh my god, fuck, I'm so sorry.
That was
If
great.
you, okay, that was great. You
Go
fucked
ahead.
it up again.
All right, go ahead. Start now.
If you want
I
to buy,
can't believe you haven't started yet.
I'm so upset.
Looks like I'm picking your nose.
Oh, that's pretty great.